I've spent 10 years analyzing and building landing pages for over 200 clients, help them grow, help them sell, help them just make more of an impact online. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the perfect landing page actually means and how you can build one that looks great, performs well, and actually makes you money. I'm going to talk about the perfect landing page in 4 different parts. So we have look, feel, business, and technical. So let's start with the most obvious part, how your page looks. Bad visuals don't just hurt conversions, they destroy trust instantly. I'm sure you've done it. As a business owner, you've created a page, it looks beautiful, and well, you didn't sell. Here's a couple of things that I'd like to cover as far as how your page looks. Visual hierarchy. Make sure that your headlines, right, if you have a H1 at the top of the page, the rest of the headlines follow a sequence, H2, H3, H4, and as you go down the hierarchy. This is not only just a technical writing thing, but also visually human beings, we like to be structured in that way. It's like when you make a bullet list, you tab in for the things that are going to go below the main bullet. On a page, you want to follow the same psychological and visual hierarchy because that's what people are familiar with and it kind of makes sense. Font sizing is one of those things that bothers me a whole lot as well. If you're using a headline on a H1 that's a certain size, an H2 that's a certain size, keep to that. I know there's a lot of landing page builders where you can set the H1s to the H6s, whatever size on the theme or on the page builder, whatever the case is, but you can also edit those sizes manually when you're building your page. My suggestion is pick the font sizes you like and then stick to them, right? Make sure that it follows the hierarchy in terms of size, bigger H1s, smaller as you go down to H6. And then spacing is the same concept. Make sure your spacing is consistent throughout the page. Let's say you have a section, you have margin at the top and you have padding at the top. If you're going to do padding at the top, keep the same padding on all the sections. If you have bullet point elements, keep the spacing and line spacing the same on all your bullet points. Trying to create familiarity on the page, and ideally you'd want that to be consistent through your entire website. If somebody goes to your homepage, the fonts and the sizes and all of these things are going to be similar, your style is going to be similar, your theme, colors, all of that is going to be similar, so that you create a brand, you create a familiarity. Okay, so let's talk about graphics and let's talk about visuals just in terms of how your page looks. If you're going to add any images to the page, make sure that the images actually match the copy, meaning the content that's on the page, right? If you've got some random graphic and it's a rabbit and the rabbit is eating a carrot and you're not actually talking about eating food, or you're not talking about consumption, or you're not talking about something related to that rabbit, don't use it. Every single pixel, every single element that's on your page should be intentional. But having said that, if you're building a page and just trying to get your message out, pick the graphics that make sense to you and then just run with it, right? Test it and see what happens. When you're trying to sell something on a landing page, you want just one focus. You want somebody to do one specific thing. And so all your copy, all your formatting, all your colors, all your whatever you have, your graphics, everything on your page is going to try to create that inviting feel, but also get them to do that one action on the page. When it comes to like how much do you spend on the page, well, some designs can be expensive, some don't need to be expensive. You can use graphics from Canva, you can create graphics using a graphic designer and an Illustrator and 3D animations and fancy things. What I would say is that keep it minimal and try to be intentional in terms of what you're trying to say on the page. That's probably the most important thing. Don't spend on overly expensive things until you know that your page is converting, you have traffic and you're converting. It satisfies how you feel about the page and in terms of the quality. Is it the best that you've done? Are the clients digging it? Do they buy it? Do they feel safe? The next point is the most critical thing, and it's something that's still overlooked even in 2025. It shocks me that people are still ignoring this concept, but mobile design matters much more than desktop. Yes, on your computer, people are browsing. Maybe you're looking at your computer when you're designing the page. Fine. No problem. It needs to be well laid out and simple. But on mobile, especially if you're running ads, probably 60, 70, 80, 90% of your traffic is going to be mobile. So make sure that you look at your landing page on a mobile view and make sure that it looks great and makes sense on a mobile page. Sometimes on a desktop, you'll have an image on the left side, you'll have text on the right side, and there's a match, right? There's like, it's congruent, eye follows left to right, simple, easy. But on the phone, we are going vertical, right? You want the headline, then the image, and then the text. so that it follows a logical sequence, right? Because when we're scrolling through the page, the order of the things that appear is important. It's super important. It's like walking into a restaurant, it looks great on the outside, but if the menu just doesn't look good and it's not readable, and maybe like if you're like me, it doesn't have any photos, then it's going to be confusing and it's going to be difficult to order, right? So you want to give a consistent look and feel. You want to make people feel welcome. You know, when they see your ads or they see your social stuff, it's like there must be congruence between what they're seeing first and then coming over to your website or to your landing page and seeing there. We covered look, so now let's look at feel. Your page also needs to feel right. Okay, because people buy based on emotion. And when the page is off, when the vibe of your page is off, people will just bounce. Bounce meaning they'll just leave. They'll exit the page. They'll close the browser. They'll go on to the next thing. And you've done it too, right? Have you ever visited a page? It felt off. It felt too pushy. It felt cold. It didn't feel like it was your place to be. And you immediately clicked away. So here's a couple of key things to take into account. Your tone of voice. If your brand is friendly, then keep your tone of voice on the pages, on your landing pages, friendly. If your tone of voice is punchy, if it's serious, if it's chill vibes, if it's very hard-hitting and very military, very, Navy SEAL type, because those are your avatars, those are the clients you're looking for, that's the type of business you're in, then go do that. Use a tone that matches that voice. Colors, right? This goes back to look as well, but when it comes to feeling, there are feelings created by colors. If you look at my previous videos with the blue, it's like, okay, that blue maybe gives you a feeling of trust, but this yellow that I'm using right now maybe gives you a feeling of warmth, makes you feel earthy. Maybe it makes you feel, I don't know, comment below and tell me how you feel looking at these colors compared to the blue. Brand colors are important. It should match your style. It should match your overall look and feel, depending on what your business is like. Like if you're a bank, blues, navy blues, dark blues are probably going to be more important to you. If you're a soft drink and you're vibrant and you're targeting a young audience, then maybe colorful, flashy, big, bold fonts, that's maybe important, right? Which leads me into fonts. Okay, now fonts, depending on your style, depending on your brand, depending on your audience, you want to match that to the emotion and to the intent that you want people to go for. Certain fonts, when you look at a font, it'll make you feel a certain way. Now, you can use a neutral font, which is usually Arial or something of that nature, Lato maybe. Those have a neutral, very humble, sort of familiar feeling. But if you want to create a little bit more class, a little bit more edge, then use, especially for your headlines, use fonts that are a little bit more edgy. Mistakes that people make is they use fonts that are not easy to read, right? Like I've seen A, the letter A, where the middle line connecting on the capital letter A isn't there. And it's like, well, you might be tiny on the screen and maybe people are not going to know that it's an A. Words with A's are important. So, make sure that your fonts are legible, that the sizing is things are make sense, like I said before. And just make sure that visually you're communicating a feeling of blah, safety, empathy, power, whatever it is depending on your niche. You've probably got a verb, you've probably got a word that signals to the world who you are. And if you don't know what that is, ask your clients, ask your friends, hey, what's one word when you see me or when you see my style, when you see my character, or you interact with my character, what's the one word? And for me, people have told me that they feel safe, they feel warm, they feel like I'm a good listener, they feel trusted. Pick colors, pick fonts, pick all of these things from an emotional point of view to try to communicate that feeling. If you're invited to a beach party, make sure you're dressed for the beach and you don't wear a tuxedo, is what I'm saying. Like, make sure that your brand and your landing pages and your website matches that style. Third, business. Once you've got your brand down and people are familiar with it and they like it and they kind of give you a good sense, or you have a good sense, stick with that and focus on your message, focus on your offer, and focus on your headlines. Because when you think about like, okay, what's good from a conversion point of view, the question always that I get is, what's a good conversion rate? Now, a good conversion rate is usually between 3 and 5% on sales pages, meaning you're actually asking for money. Doesn't matter what the value is. Some pages are going to convert higher, some pages are going to convert lower, depending on the price of the product or item that you're selling. But 3 to 5% is the goal. If you get higher, you're a rock star. If you're at 1%, it's okay, but you can improve it. Most definitely you can improve it. The other thing you need to look at is engagement metrics. So the way to do this is you try to figure out what the scroll depth is, meaning how far down the page do people scroll. But when people are scrolling through a page, they're going to get to a certain point and they're going to click through on certain buttons. And so there's engagement metrics that you can look at. How far do they scroll? Which buttons are they pressing? What's the percentage of buttons that they are pressing? Like, add them up and see what the engagement on the pages, and then what's working and what isn't, right? Use data to guide you. So the perfect page is the one that does its job efficiently and repeatedly, right? Because you want it to be efficient, meaning you got a high conversion rate, you got good engagement metrics, and repeatedly, meaning you can get those results ongoing. It's consistently continuing and you're getting it repeatedly, day in and day out. So here's a little bit of a framework. You want your page to have purpose, you want your page to have engagement, and you want your page to have a return on investment. Page purpose means it's intentional, it's made well, it's made how you'd like it to look and made how you'd like it to feel. From an engagement point of view, it has engagement, the metrics are good, people are not bouncing or they're bouncing less than they usually would, and people are clicking buttons. They're doing the thing that you want them to do on the page. And then thirdly, from a money point of view, you want that page to actually generate some money, right? The reason we're building these landing pages is to actually generate some sales. So it's giving you the return that you would expect. Now think about a landing page as your salesman, right? If you hire a salesman, you want them not to just look pretty, you want them to also close deals, because there's no point in having somebody just look great on the sales floor, but they're not pushing any cars. I mean, I'm sorry to use the car salesman analogy, but this is the fact of the matter. Okay, so now let's talk about the stuff that most people ignore, but it matters more actually than you think. You can have the prettiest page in the world, it can look great, it can feel great, it can convert well, but from a technical point of view, there's a couple things that are important. The page needs to load quickly. If it takes 5 seconds or longer, or even 3 seconds or longer to load, people are going to leave. Right? There's a study that Amazon did. There's a bunch of studies, you can go and research this, that Amazon did a test. When they were able to cut load time down, they actually made more money. They made more conversions. It's kind of a weird thing. People don't want to sit there and wait, right? When you open a movie on Netflix, you want it to load instantly. You don't want to sit there and wait. If the movie pauses, even for a split second, it's interrupting the flow. It's interrupting your experience. And so you want your landing pages to also do the same thing. They need to load quickly and they need to get the message into the person's mind as fast as possible. So my suggestion is have a look at your bounce rates by country and then have a look and see, okay, where is your page underperforming? How can you fix that? Now, usually, depending on your host and depending on how your landing pages are built, that's going to be a bit tricky, but here's a couple of things that I think you can look at. One, mobile optimization. More than 60% of traffic is mobile, and so make sure that on the phone it loads quickly. Now you can do a speed test for mobile. You can go to page speed, and I'll put the link on the screen, and do a test to see, okay, what does it load on desktop? What does it look like and load on mobile? So what does it load on mobile? What does it load on desktop? And then you can figure it out from there. Page load speed needs to be under 3 seconds. Your bounce rate ideally should be under 50%. 50% is good, 60% is not too bad, but I would say around that range. The other things that are important, especially if you're an e-commerce store, or if you're selling a product, the language that you're promoting or the language that you're speaking is important, right? UK English is different to US English. The spelling is different, the colloquialisms are different, obviously the currency is different, and the formatting might be slightly different for those countries. So if your market is primarily UK and maybe Australia, then obviously spelling is going to be important and formatting is going to be important. In the US, again, it's going to be different. So depending on your market, you might have a high bounce rate in the UK, but a low bounce rate in the US. And if your market is the US, then you're good to go. But if you want the UK market, then you've got to adjust your language or adjust your page, or I would say even consider testing a brand new page written differently for the UK audience. There's a reason why a lot of businesses, especially large businesses, have different landing pages for different locations or different markets, and it's because of this. Here's something to remember. If your landing page is slow, it's like a store with locked doors and no lights on, nobody's going to go in to buy anything. So what's the secret to a perfect landing page? Well, as you've just seen, it's not just one thing, right? It depends on how it looks, how it feels, how it performs, and how it functions technically. I know I said it's technical, but it's actually how it works, right? So if you get all these 4 things right, you don't have to get them perfect, once again, but you've probably built something that works. You've built something that has a version of perfect, and you can iterate, you can get it over the line to be better. So now you have these 4 main points. You're probably asking, okay, what's the difference between a $1 landing page and a $100,000 landing page? Well, click this video to go check out that video.